All right, welcome back to Altar of the Brew. Rich and I have been gone for a little while. We're back.
Yeah, here we are.
You were sick. We're back.
Yep.
Things happen these days.
I was out on Monday. He was out the Monday before. We're better now, and we're bringing you a nice, cool one. This is Brimaz, Blight of Oreskos from the new March of the Machines coming out. I think it's actually from one of the Commander decks, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, it is? It's not in the main
Well,
set?
it's like $20-something, so I assume it's probably from the Commander deck.
But it's a mythic.
It is a mythic.
And it hasn't been released yet. So.
But he is a 3/4 for 2 white and a black legendary Phyrexian cat. This is when you cast a Phyrexian creature or an artifact creature spell, incubate X, where X is that spell's mana value. And to incubate, you create an artifact token with that many 1/1 counters on it. And then it also has an ability that says you can pay 2 to transform it into a 0/0 Phyrexian artifact creature. And he also says at the beginning of each end step, if a Phyrexian died on your controller's turn, you proliferate. So the strategy Steve and I are thinking about is going kind of heavy into the tokens with lots of sack outlets to kind of aristocrat people out with artifacts.
Right.
Kind of
So
like,
we want to get in his trigger by casting a Phyrexian creature, casting an artifact creature, getting us our tokens, either using those tokens as they are or animating them, and then having all these payoffs as we continue to build an overwhelming board state. There might be some opportunities to get into some loops with this, given a couple of cards. It's not going to be there's no one card outlet with this deck. It's going to be one of these decks where you keep presenting more and more pieces that are more synergistic. You let me get the right 3 or 4 pieces, and we're probably going to create a loop here where we're going to sack everything until everybody's dead. It might not be infinite, but it's going to be till everyone's dead.
Yeah, usually that's going to be your primary win condition, is just kind of sacrificing to bleed everybody down. Very similar to other aristocrat-style decks. However, we do have a secondary plan of just you could beat face because you're going to be making a lot of power on the table, and a lot of it can actually survive Wrath if you play correctly, which is really, really cool. Just to get started here, just got 35 lands that make white and black. Mostly stuff that's $20 and less, just because we're keeping with our high-powered casual here. A little lighter on the artifact ramp tonight because we're thinking about using more creatures to do ramping to trigger Brimaz more, especially in the late game. When you draw an artifact, Orzhov Signet on turn 6 or 7 or 8, it's less good. But bang, you just made a free artifact when you casted it, so now it's better.
Right.
Not the Orzhov Signet, but the creature you would play. Just one big, huge mention here, though. We got some pretty generic white removal. That's all the best in slot stuff. However, Steve and I are really getting to be big supporters of Dispatch.
Yeah.
It's a really cool card. It's basically a third Swords or Path, but there's basically no downside to it. You don't give them a land. You don't give them any life. All it's asking is that you have 3 or more artifacts, which with this commander is very, very easy.
Right. So yeah, and I don't hate it at its floor, but the floor is almost never going to happen.
Now, tap a creature, you likely won't do that most of the time, unless it's going to fog somebody for 1 turn attacking you, or save you so you can kill them and swing back.
But it's not the worst way to save yourself, right?
No.
Yeah. So I don't hate it for that. All right. So then we said our big thing was we want to have the versatility of being able to sacrifice the incubator tokens without animating them as the best case scenario, right? So from a sack outlet standpoint, we wanted to start with the best one in the business when it comes to artifacts, and that's KCI. Clark Kent Ironworks is the card. If you've seen it be played in Modern and things like that, it does crazy stuff. Is it banned in Modern now?
I think it is now.
Yeah.
But in its heyday, it was awesome, and we could easily play all of the pieces in the deck if we wanted to combo victory. I mean, they're all generically fine artifacts to play for the most part, if we wanted to. I don't think we need to, but I think this is more of a play up more turns kind of deck. We're not tutoring a whole lot either, although there's a few ways to do it.
But I think that most of the pieces that are part of the quote-unquote KCI package are good cards to play anywhere here, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Mirror Retriever, Scrap Trawler,
It's great cards.
Those are fine in here. Junk Diver, right, is the other one. They're all kind of fine in here anyway, so...
I super dig KCI anyway, just because it lets you just convert your junky artifacts you don't need into more mana. Basically, it can help you ritual a big turn or get 1 big artifact out very quickly to help you just dominate a game. It's a very, very powerful card. In addition to that, we have Arcbound Ravager, which lets you just free sack artifacts, but it's a 2-mana 0/0 beast that enters with a 1/1 counter, and when you sack an artifact to it, you put a 1/1 counter on it. The reason this card is Extra Song, another former, I would say, modern staple in the Affinity deck, was you can sacrifice a bunch of artifacts to it, and then it can sacrifice itself to put all those counters on something. Another artifact creature, which is a very powerful ability to be able to do that. And it gets even more exciting if you include things like the Ozolith, because when you sack things with counters on them, the Ozolith that receives those counters as well. And then when you sacrifice Arcbound Ravager to put the counters on another creature with modular, I believe it does stack them on the Ozolith. So another card I definitely think we should add to this. Commander says proliferate on it. It puts tons of counters on stuff. It's totally reasonable that we would play the Ozolith in this deck. There were a few more sack outlets that I think would be great.
Okay. What else you got for sack outlets?
Even though it doesn't just sacrifice creatures, just artifacts, I think Ashnod's Altar is just a banger in a deck that wants to sacrifice like all these tokens we're gonna make. The thing is that you only need to activate one of the tokens with the Ashnod's Altar out to get your loop kind of moving. So if you have 4 or 5 of these tokens, you pay 2 mana to activate the first one, then you sack Ashnod's Altar, which gives you 2 mana for the next one, and so on and so forth.
Yep.
Let you kind of chain up with some of the big payoffs we're going to talk about.
Yep.
You had discussed a few more sack outlets that were pretty neat. Do you want to maybe bring those up so we can talk about them?
Yeah, so I found some more kind of free artifact sack outlets. There's some that are not very good. Some I was more happy with. What was the Aetherborn one? I think was one of the ones we talked about maybe doing, right? Was the black one?
I'm not sure what it's called, but I know we had talked about this.
Oh, okay, yeah, do that one.
So we talked about Oswald Fiddlebender before we started streaming tonight. It wasn't actually one that I had considered. I don't know what just happened over here. Just hit one of the F keys.
Oh, gotcha.
Here, come. What's going on? Come on, Oswald. Where are you, buddy? There he is. My favorite D&D book art. If you can't tell, I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of the D&D book arts, just because I like more text to them. They look good in the D&D books, though. So Oswald Fiddlebender, 2 mana, 2/2 gnome artifact, legendary. Just pay a white and tap them. Sack an artifact to search for your library for an artifact with mana value equal to 1+ that. So he'll sack those tokens to just get you 1-drops, and then you can start sacking bigger things to get bigger and bigger things if you want to.
Is that the one that you were considering?
Yes.
Defiant Salvager. This was from Commander Legends, was the last printing? Was there another one?
I think it was from Aether.
It's also from Kaladesh, yeah. Aether Revolt, then it was in Kaladesh Remastered. It was in Double Masters, too. So it's a common that probably most people have banging around in the bottom of their drawer somewhere.
It's not very good, but it does work in this deck as either a budget option if you need one, or as just an additional sack outlet. It is free. You can sack an artifact or a creature, which is sweet. You put a 1 counter on it. You can only do that at sorcery speed, though, which is the real downside of this card.
Right.
However, if we're going for a turn where we're just kind of kill everybody, this card is absolutely fine to just jam out of your hand and go crazy on. Also, it can get kind of big, especially if Brimaz is going to be proliferating and stuff like that. And it also has a 1/1 synergy, 1/1 counter synergy with it.
The other one that we saw it's from way back in the day is Extruder.
Extruder, yeah. This is a 4 mana. Go ahead. You can get
4 mana, 4/3 Juggernaut. It has Echo 4. But I guess the real plan is if you're going to win, you just cast it and kill everyone then. So you don't really pay the Echo, or you sacrifice it at the end of the chain. So you can sack an artifact to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, which is where this card's really strong, because you can, you could play this as your sack outlet, sack your whole board to this, all your incubate tokens to this thing, and then pump up some flying thing that just murders someone who's left.
Yeah, it's a sweet card, and I think it fits totally in this build. The last one that I had was I wasn't sure if you liked this one, but
The Filigree Vector.
Filigree Vector. There's a new card coming out, I think it is. Yeah, it says $100, so we'll see.
What? Mine says 90 cents on
Yeah,
Scryfall.
that's what mine said, but look.
Okay, so
somebody must have finally pre-ordered one. So Filigree Vector, this is a neat new card. It's a 3 and a white for a 1/1. You know me, I love 4 mana 1/1s. God, it's terrible. It says when it enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on each of any number of target creatures and a charge counter on any number of target artifacts. So that in itself is a very powerful effect. But you have tap 1 tap, sack another artifact to proliferate. So you can make everything very gigantic. It's just another way to sack stuff. It's not free. It does require a tap. So it's definitely not the best one. But it's also a Phyrexian. It's an artifact creature, so it triggers a Brimaz when you cast it. and makes a token with 4/1/1 counters on it. So very, very cool. I think it's a neat card. You good over here?
Yeah, I was just checking. I didn't know if our background music was playing. I tried to check on my app, but that's fine. We're good.
Gotcha. So let's get to the easy part here. Well, if we're going to be making tokens, I want to make twice as many tokens. Or
Yes.
4 times as many tokens. I'm going to steal the mouse for a second here.
There you go. You got it.
And so I think Anointed Procession is a slam dunk in this deck.
Sure.
It is $41. But, I mean, hey, if you got one, stick it in there. If you don't got one, then, you know.
Buy a Mondrak.
Buy a Mondrak, which is $33, I think. Still expensive. Both these cards, I think, are slam dunks in this deck. 23, it's gone down a lot. I should probably pick one up.
Yeah, I was looking at the same thing.
So.
I think that's the cheap printing too. Is the non-foil full art version.
$23.55 for the regular one. I'm okay with that. But yeah, Mondrak and Anointed Procession, they're both 4 mana. They both say basically if you were to make a token, make twice as many tokens. Mondrak has the greatness of being a Phyrexian creature as well, so it triggers Brimaz when you cast it. It is a 4/4. You can pay 1 and a white Phyrexian, and sacrifice 2 other artifacts and/or creatures to an indestructible counter on it, which is also good.
Colin's here.
Hey, Colin, good to have you here, buddy. So the cool thing about Mondrak is it's also a sack outlet for 1 mana, basically. You got to pay some life, which does stink, or you can pay the 3 mana, but it lets you just sack artifacts. Just another kind of free way there. So I super dig it. I think that's all the token doublers I had for white and black, unfortunately.
Yep, I think that makes sense.
I'm okay working on some of the. Want to do payoffs next or mana dorks next?
Let's do some payoffs. So I think the way we were talking about winning the game most was Disciple of the Vault being our cheapest way to generate value off of sacking the incubate things.
I was thinking the same thing, Colin.
Oh, Mirage Mirror?
Yeah, I think Mirage Mirror is great in pretty much any artifact deck.
Yeah.
Or in any deck, really. It's just such a powerful card. But we'll get to it in a sec, bud.
Yeah, Disciple of the Vault being a way to ping everybody. It's a target instead of each. And then I think the other one we talked about being really powerful was Marionette Master.
This card get extra powerful in this deck because of the proliferation on the commander here.
Yeah.
Because you can put a lot of counters on this bad boy, and you can kill people very quickly. So it's a 6 mana 1/3, but has Fabricate 3, so when it enters, you can make 3 servos, or you put 3/1 counters on it. Whenever an artifact you control is put in a graveyard from battlefield, an opponent loses life equal to its power. It is a very, very, very strong card, even at 6 mana. Just going to change the printing here from my brain. Yeah, the mirror is just spectacular. It's a 3 mana artifact. I think I'll just change it here for now. It's a 3 mana artifact that you can pay 2 to copy a land, creature, artifact, or enchantment, if I'm correct. And so when you go to make your tokens, if you have a token doubler out, like Anointed Procession, only like Anointed Procession, you can't do it with Mondrak. You can just pay 2 mana to make another one for the temporary for the turn. And then, or if your opponent has like a doubling season out there, you can just copy that with it and then go ham. But it's also just, it's a really neat card. Lets you kind of run some shenanigans. Protects itself well as long as you have 2 mana up. Most people can't throw removal at it because you can just turn it into a land or whatever negates the removal. It's a really neat card. Good suggestion, buddy. Other payoffs. Do we want to go with the full gamut of...
Yeah, and then I think from there we switch from the ones that cared about specifically any artifact to ones that specifically care about creatures, right? So we got Elias El Core, which is kind of one of our big staples nowadays when it comes to Blood Artistry effects, because it is so well designed.
Yeah, I mean, just in the fact that it's a Phyrexian also for our commander, which gives us a free artifact when it comes out. It's 2/2 Death Toucher. No one wants to attack into this thing, as silly as it is. Another creature you enters the battlefield you control, you gain a life. And so it's a Soul Sister. And when another creature you control dies, each opponent loses a life. That's just amazing. It does all the things, and it's an uncommon. Good old Blood Artist.
Blood Artist.
Great thing, and don't forget Blood Artist triggers. I can't tell you how many times I play with people, and they forget that when their opponent's creatures dies, the artist still triggers. I like Zulaport myself.
Of course.
The Zulaport Cutthroat is just really, really awesome. It doesn't count everybody's creatures, but it does hit all of your opponents. So it's basically like a 4-life swing every time a creature you control dies. If you don't know Zulaport by now, what are you doing? Come on, this is Commander. You should know this card. Let's see. I also had that's not it. Sorry. What else did I have? There's another one that I really liked. Excuse me, folks. Oh, so I don't know how you feel about this. It's not what I would consider to be the best card. This could be a more budget alternative if you needed one. But I have it on my list as a card I just wanted to talk about. It's a Scheming Aspirant. It's a Phyrexian, so it triggers a commander. It says whenever you proliferate, each opponent loses 2 and you gain 2. So every time, every end step, you could basically trigger this. Just each end step on Brimaz.
It is a Phyrexian. That does take it up a notch. I think if it wasn't a Phyrexian, I wouldn't even care.
No, probably not. I mean, it's not even a card I think we play. It's definitely one I just wanted to mention because, we're going to be talking some high-dollar stuff, and not everybody wants to build a high-dollar deck. So reasonable. And then the other one I had was Vran. Like I said, these are more budgety options, but they could have some real nice role-playing in your deck. So he's a 1 and a black 2/2. Whenever one or more other creatures you control die, each opponent loses 2 and you gain 2. It only triggers once each turn. So it happened once on everybody's turn.
But it is a Phyrexian.
And it is a Phyrexian, so it would trigger the commander. Put that in the card draw game.
So another one that I don't know if you thought about in the same effect was Nadir's Nightblade.
Was that the token dies? I did not.
Whenever a token you control dies.
Oh, Nadir. Oh, Nadir. Yeah, I mean, we're going to be making a lot of tokens. That's the plan anyway.
So, we can think about that one. That's another one that kind of maybe is not as good of a role player as some of the other ones because it's not a Phyrexian and it isn't going to hit on our non-token creatures, which there's a lot of loops we can maybe get into with non-token creatures. Yeah, but so I don't like it as much as the standard ones, but it's another one to put in that that considering pile for people who are looking at.
For sure, I think it's a great card. I have this one. It's not what I would consider to be a payoff or a sack outlet, but it kind of does both. It's Aaron Banalia's Ruin.
Ooh, Ascent.
It's 1 penny. It's a legendary Phyrexian human, so it is a Phyrexian. It's another one of these Dominaria cards.
Dominaria.
It's a 3-mana 3/3 menace. For black and a white and tap it, you can sack another creature and put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. So this will be part of your kind of your plan B if attacking. Like I said, I don't think we need it in our deck because we're probably gonna have a lot, but it's just another great card to move to considering here.
Do you want to do some of our more mana dorky type stuff now?
Yeah, I'd love to. So let's go ahead and put the things that I want to put in here.
Want the mirrors?
I want the mirror. I love mirror because of my favorite joke for Magic. Hey, mirror. Oh, I'd even pick the Scars of Mirror in one, my favorite. And then Leaden Mirror as well for black.
Are you doing Palladium Mirror?
I do have Palladium Mirror on my list. I wasn't sure what you thought about it.
Yeah,
I think it's
makes sense.
I think it's a great card in this deck. Like, you're not going to be as fast. I mean, we could probably put Greaves near if we wanted to speed it up a little bit, but I don't think it's necessary. Although if we're going to have a lot of mana dork creatures, maybe it's reasonable to put it in there. It also protects Brimaz, which is kind of important. It's a Palladium Mirror.
He's 3/4. He doesn't die to Bolt.
Everybody plays Bolt and Commander, you know that.
Yep. If you're good.
So I have Plague Mirror in here. I don't like it as an infect source, but I like it as a mana source and as a Phyrexian and an artifact creature for the Commander.
Yeah.
Just another 2-mana dork. Just something to do in the early turns to really get that Brimaz out on turn 3 to get working as soon as possible. That's really the expectation I have with a high-powered, casual deck is that I'm going to play my Commander 1 turn ahead of the curve. Obviously, you can have the nut draw of like land, Soul Ring, Arcane Signet next turn, play Brimaz. Sweet, or even just land, Soul Ring, play Brimaz on turn 2. But
I think I want an Ornithopter of Paradise.
Yeah, I think Ornithopter of Paradise is great.
Because I also like this as a great option to dump counters on to kill people with if we had to. Right? Same thing with the Plague Mirror, kind of can play that role if we have to.
Oh, yes. And then, with that like option of being able to like kind of murder balls people out of nowhere with a flying creature, what do you think about the new Liberator?
Liberator Urza's Battlethopter?
Yeah.
That just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, it's so easy to say and doesn't look terrifying at all. Look at this ridiculous artwork. It's got a face. But it's a flash flying 1/2 Thopter, so it triggers your Brimaz. And it says you can cast color spells and artifact spells as though they had flash, so flash to many of your little pieces. It says whenever you cast a spell, if the amount of mana spent to cast is greater than its power, you put a 1/1 counter on it. So the neat thing about that is that we're going to be able to put at least one counter on this eventually, and then Brimaz, every time we sacrifice a Phyrexian, can just chunk this thing up and make it humongous, while also giving you that Shimmer Mirror effect.
Yep.
So I like this card a lot. I know they're not technically they're not mana producers, but I love
Foundry Inspector.
Foundry Inspector and the
Joyer's Familiar.
Joyer's Familiar. I think these things make playing artifacts the most fun when you can play things for way cheaper, or if you have both of these things out. Or I like Ugin, the Unsexable.
Ugin the Virgin.
Ugin the Virgin, because just like reducing cost by 2 basically lets you just jam like a pile of ramp or free things, and then just go off the chains with Brimaz, because you now have the mana to turn these things on and make them the creatures.
You doing Ugin?
Yeah, I think Spirit Dragon might be a bit of a reach for this deck, but Ineffable for sure.
It's gonna pop.
Yeah.
Yep.
So 6 mana, 6 mana is a lot, but with artifact decks, they tend to be not so hard to get to.
Right.
These makes colorless spells cost 2 less. +1, you can exile top card of your library face down. Look at it. It's a colorless 2/2 spirit. And if that token were to leave the battlefield for any reason, you put that exile card in your hand. It's also just removal, because you can -3 it to destroy a permanent that's one or more colors.
And you can sack those.
Yep. So very, very good there. With Ugin, I love...
You got the other one. You didn't do the other one.
Jorya's Familiar, yeah.
Yep.
I got so excited. I put Jorya's.
Yeah, because everybody knows how to spell Jehoiara.
Jehoiara.
That's the most... I can imagine the debate that took place when the first Jehoiara card was previewed, and everyone in Magic had to decide how to pronounce that.
It's pretty funny. This is a flying 2/2, so it does fly, which is nice. Makes your historic spells cost 1 less. This is one of the things I see people miss on as well. Historic counts legendaries and it counts sagas. But legendaries include planeswalkers and your legendary creatures too. So things like our Oswald Fiddlebender here would only cost 1 mana when Joyous Familiar out. Don't discount those discounts, because they add up to so much mana over the course of a game. Getting like 6, 7, 8, 10, 15 discounts is just that much more mana you got to spend on doing other things.
So funny little story about all these discounts. I'd never heard this term before, but somebody was playing one of these decks on Alan's stream the other night, and he's like, "Oh, you got all the coupons." And I thought that was a really funny way to describe all these creatures as coupons.
Coupons are such a good way to describe them. I'm never not gonna call them that again. That's amazing. With that, should we play like the Cloud Key and stuff, go real deep? Or are we planning on probably having more
I don't like the Cloud Key because it's not a creature to trigger Brimaz.
True.
Like, I like the double up, triple up of synergies.
Sure.
Versus like playing the ones that are not.
Yeah.
Do you want to go with?
Making sure I didn't miss any mana stuff here. Oh, I had one more.
Oh, you got one more?
Colin, this is for you and me, buddy.
There you go.
Colin and me love this card.
Oh yeah, you do love this card.
Did I spell it wrong?
Nope.
Oh, there it is. Still like $10. It's been reprinted too. This is a 4 mana 1/1 Crystalline Crawler. Right here. It enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it for each color of mana spent to cast it, which usually will be 2 in this deck. But the cool thing is you can remove a counter from it to make a mana of any color, and you can tap it to put a 1/1 counter on it. The nice thing is that our commander says proliferate on it somewhere. There's a lot of things that add counters, like the Extruder and stuff like that, or Arcbound Ravager. You can pile a ton of mana on this thing and use it really powerfully. And the fact that you can just tap it to put a counter on it is also really strong. It seems like it's not, but like, I think you can Ozolith turn, just drop like 30 on here and just go ham bananas. It's crazy. Colin with the big yes. Yeah. So yeah, I really, really dig that card. Let's see here. I got a little too deep into the big stuff, I think, when I was doing my list.
Oh, I got some bigger boom creatures, because you got to go like into something here.
All right, so I want to just give this a nice shout out here. I think it belongs in the deck. If you're playing tokens, you're playing 1/1 counters, you're playing artifacts. This seems like a snap play. Hangerback Walker. It's got a lot of text on it. It cares about counters. It makes tokens.
Yep.
Kill
it. It poops out a bunch of Thopters.
It lands in any spot in the curve.
Yep. Yep. I love it.
Hell, the best thing, you know me, I love using cards in uncommon ways. You could play this for 0 to make a token with Brimaz with 0 counters on it, and it will sack to state-based effects, and then you can sack the token, and you can just trigger your Marionette Master to kill somebody for all you know, with no mana left.
That's pretty wild.
I have done stuff like that. I don't think
pretty
this
wild.
is a Walking Ballista deck. Doesn't feel like it.
No, I mean,
But,
it's not the
it does-
worst
it's
because
artifact
of proliferate, but I don't. Maybe if like we somehow ended up with a whole bunch of ways to make infinite mana, but I don't think we need that because we're doing like the sack outlet loop stuff. We're not really looking to generate infinite mana here and kill people with that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I have a couple of like card advantage things I was thinking about.
Let's see 'em.
I think it's an artifact creature. We need an Esper Sentinel.
Totally forgot about Esper Sentinel. You know why? I have it for 0. I'm gonna give it its own page, guys, so you can see how good this card is. This is Esper Sentinel. $28, actually cheaper than I thought it would be. So when an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, you draw a card unless that player plays X, where X is its power. Neat thing in this deck, we can actually amp the power on this thing pretty big. And it basically just becomes like the fish, and it just draws you a card every time.
Right.
At least once a turn. What else you got here?
Mystic Forge, my favorite artifact spell.
This is why I love Ugin the Ineffable so much. And these cost reducers, because you can just like rip cards off the top of your library so fast. So a 4-mana artifact lets you play colorless spells off the top of your library. You can also tap it to exile the top card of your library, so you get stuck by a land or something like that. Where is it? Mystic Forge. I'm a big fan of it. I mean, I like the green. Oh, it also lets you look at the top card of your library anytime. Artifact spells and colorless spells. So if you have an artifact creature that's black or white, you can still cast it, which is really cool. I didn't put a command tower in here.
I think we should,
An
we should
exotic
probably do
orchard.
that.
While you're thinking about the next one here, or what do you got?
I was gonna do some of the KCI pieces that are good anyway.
Sure, yeah.
So Mirror Retriever, which is when it dies, you get another artifact from your graveyard back to your hand.
Yeah, great card.
Which just works anyway, and then Scrap Trawler.
This is a really weird kind of ability that I don't think most other. Like, this is not a common ability on a card. 3 mana, I want to say it is. 3/2.
So seeing as how we're playing Scrap Trawler and KCI,
might as well play the rest of the pieces.
well, I'm just saying, do you put the 2 artifact lands that are in our colors?
I mean, you could. I don't like them much, but yeah, they'll be fine. So Vault.
We're gonna probably play some threats that care about how many artifact creature things we have. Artifacts count, right? Like I think one of my favorite attacking creatures in these color combinations that care about artifacts is Bronze Guardian. I think that card slaps super hard.
Can't recall the name of it. Let me take a look at it. I also can't remember the name of the white one. Colin, you remember the name of the white one? The white artifact land?
So Bronze Guardian is a double strike with Ward 2. Artifacts you control also have Ward 2, protects everything, and then its power is equal to the number of artifacts you control.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So it's just a monstrous beater.
Thank you, Colin.
That also has like a nice little ward effect for your whole team.
Sure. If we're actually gonna play these lands, should we just play like the other 2 as well? There's a black-white dual land that's indestructible, and there's Dark Steel Citadel.
I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah, I mean, especially if we're gonna play anything with affinity, which I think Micah Smith Colin totally fits this deck. Dark Steel Citadel and black-white.
Vault of Whispers.
Oh yeah, Colin gave it to us. I did already. Sorry, I put Vault of Whispers in already because I knew that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not a big fan of this Dark Frame of it, even though I like Dark Frame cards. And then Ancient Dead's here.
Yep.
So. Yeah.
It's because that was in the
Those,
in the 40k decks. I think they reprinted Vault of Whispers.
gotcha. The command tower in that I forgot earlier. And I like Exotic Orchard. What do you think about that?
Sure.
Many people play white now, so it's pretty easy to just be a white land. Of course, I can't spell worth a darn tonight. especially because Orchard is almost the same as my first name. And then I cannot think of the name of the black-white duel from Modern Horizons.
I can look that one up.
Yeah.
You want to throw a Scrap Trawler in there while we're at it?
Oh, I thought I did already.
Did you?
Yeah, right here.
Oh, you got that one.
Scrap Trawler is a 3-mana 3/2. It says whenever it or another artifact you control is put in the graveyard from the battlefield, return to your hand target artifact card in your graveyard with lesser mana value. So that's pretty good. So basically what you would do is you would play
Goldmire
Thank you.
Bridge.
So this is just another black-white dual land. Enters tapped, but it's an artifact and it's indestructible, which is pretty cool. You know, little bits there. Drop these down later.
So there is an artifact creature. There's the artifact creature equipment scavenging ooze that cares about counters. Is that something
Lion
you might want
Sash.
to play?
Yeah, let's take a look at it. What do I think of Skrulv's Hive in the list? I think it's a good card. Makes artifacts every single turn. It does look as though we're going to have a harder time defending ourselves with this deck. So that might be a little bit tougher, Colin. But I do think it's a good card. What card did I just add?
You were... I don't remember.
Must be a creature.
Lion Sash.
Lion Sash. There it is. Yeah, yeah.
That's what we were talking about.
All right. So Lion Sash is a wall of text, but it's an artifact creature. So when you cast it, it triggers commander. You can pay white to exile cards from graveyards. Target card from a graveyard. If it was a permanent, you put a 1/1 counter on it, and then you can reconfigure this onto a creature, and the equipped creature gets 1/1 for each 1/1 counter on this. So another strong play with your goofy flyers and stuff.
What about what else did I have for
I'll put Colin's
artifact
suggestion
creatures?
here in the
Oh, the Hive.
Considering for sure. Like I said, I'm not sure we'll be able to protect ourselves well enough. Even just paying 1 life, like on the upkeep, it's not much, but like we're not winning with toxic or infect, and then like we're not playing that many toxic or infect creatures. But it is, if you're looking to really go hard to the paint on tokens, then that's a fine card. Obviously, with some token doublers, it's pretty solid.
Do we want to what else? Creatures. Do you want a Mycosynth Golem in this list?
I do, yeah. Let me finish this thing I was typing up here.
Oh.
So I wasn't sure. Me and you always look at this card, and we haven't
do.
found a place for it. We always cut it, but maybe this is the deck for it. Probably not, because this is one of those like 101st cards.
Oh,
Always is a 101st
I know.
card. I think it's as best an artifact producer. That's true, Colin. But the commander is also an artifact producer that you don't have to really do much more than just play the game.
I don't think it added. I think it clicked and then it didn't do anything. Like you gotta click on it again. There you go. There you go. Now it added it.
It should put it down here in artifacts.
Yeah.
So what I completed is a 2-mana flying vehicle, which does not trigger your commander. It says as long as it has 4 more Phyresis counters on it, it's a Phyrexian creature in addition to other types. The commander does care about that. So whenever a creature you control dies, put a Phyresis counter on it, then draw a card if it has 7 or more Phyresis counter on it. If it doesn't, then you scry 1. So right there, like being able to put counters on it is relevant. Also, like you can't crew it, which I think is weird. There's no crew ability on this vehicle, but it does let you kind of like scry cards and draw cards pretty much every time something dies.
Yeah.
Which I think is reasonable, totally easy to cut. Like I said, it's often a like a 101st card for me and Steve.
That makes sense.
Colin did have a suggestion of Hidden Stockpile. Now, while I think Hidden Stockpile is an amazing card, and I do like this card a lot, it requires you to jump through too many hoops for what we're looking to do. We just want to generate our value and not have to focus on having to sacrifice something. But it is a black-white enchantment for 2, and it says the beginning of your end step, if a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, you make a servo, which is an artifact creature, and you can pay 1 to sack creature and scry 1. It is a sack outlet that gives you something. You have to pay for it, but it also lets you generate a 1/1 on your turn every time you sack something. So I think it's a fine card. It's a little mana intensive with the double color so early. Not that bad, obviously, because our commander's the same thing. But I just think it's kind of slow for what we're trying to do. And as far as payoffs, just want to throw a couple more in here. Drivnod, I like.
That's the double trigger, double death trigger one.
Yeah, this is the Black Phyrexian God that came out in the last or All Is One set. He'll show up here one day. There he is. So he's a 5 mana 8/3, which is also hilarious. So he'll trigger the commander, but then he's a Phyrexian, so he'll trigger the commander if he dies too. And it says if a creature dying causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control trigger, it triggers the second time. Then you can pay Phyrexian Black, which is either a black mana or life. Exile 3 cards from your graveyard to put an indestructible counter on it. Indestructible counter on an 8/3 is pretty strong, especially if you start stacking counters on it, like 1/1 counters. But also, like, just getting double death triggers means your Blood Arts triggers twice, means that your Azula Port's triggered twice. It's just really powerful.
Right.
Mirror Retriever dies, you get back 2 artifacts. If an artifact dies with Scrap Trawler out, you're going to get back 2 artifacts now. So it's a very, very powerful card.
Junk Diver is the other piece we didn't add, right?
Yeah. That's a Mirror Retriever analog, right? There's a few of them like that. Come on. Junk Diver's nice, though, because it flies.
Well, I think that's the 3. Those are all the pieces you need to do KCI without anything else.
I mean, yeah, you'll need a payoff, right? So you need KCI, Junk Diver, or KCI, Scrap Trawler, and then one of those,
or 2 of those.
I don't know. It's a pretty big loop, but it's pretty easy to get to.
But all the pieces in here are good.
Yeah, they're just like fine cards to have. Junk Diver just says when it dies, return an artifact from your graveyard to your hand. Another artifact.
Do you want to put in some of our bigger boom artifact creatures that we want to kind of work our way up towards?
Sure, yeah.
So we talked about Mycosynth Golem, and then the other one was the other big boy, the Metalwork Colossus.
I do love me the Metalwork Colossus. So Mycosynth Golem is an 11 mana 4/5. It's a great rate.
It's terrible.
But it does have affinity for artifacts. It costs 1 less for each artifact you control, and then it says artifact creature spells you play have affinity for artifacts. So that in itself is very strong because pretty much everything's going to be free after.
$36.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good card.
And then Metalwork Colossus.
I actually don't know if Metalwork Colossus is all that good in this now. Because we don't have that many non-creature... we got quite a few non-creature artifacts here. We'll probably add more too. Metalwork Colossus is an 11 mana 10/10. That's its cost is reduced by the total number of
different CMC, right?
Not different, no, just the total number of CMCs that are not artifacts. Jeez, not creatures. Let me just read you the template on it. Costs X less to cast, for X is the total mana value of non-creature artifacts you control. So if you have at least 11 total mana's worth of non-creature artifacts, let's be these bad boys down here, then it's free to play. Cost reducer is still effective because it's 11 mana, which is nice. The nice thing about it is if it's in your graveyard, you can sack 2 artifacts to return it from your graveyard to your hand. Allows you to run some shenanigans with some sack loops if you need to, especially because your commander is going to be making a bunch of tokens. So if you have a token doubler out with this guy and a sack outlet and your commander, you basically can go and the enough CMC of artifacts to cast it for free. You basically cast it for free. You sack it to whatever your sack outlet is, and then you make, or when you cast it, your commander made 2 tokens because you have a doubler out there. It sounds convoluted, but these are permanents that just kind of stick around anyway.
Yep.
And Metalwork Colossus lets you sack the 2 tokens you make to return it to your hand or recast it, rinse, repeat, and if you have any kind of payoff on the table, then the game is over.
Is this a Mirror Battlesphere deck?
You know, I thought about Mirror Battlesphere, and yeah, why not? It's a great card. Who doesn't want to make a 4/7, 4 1/1s, and not a creature with 7 1/1 counters on it? Then you pay 2 to turn into a creature. It seems fine to me. And with all the cost reducers, it's a really good card.
Right. Plus, we're already playing token doublers.
Yeah.
So we have a potential to go really crazy with that.
It's also really, it's like a hella good blocker on the ground. Like, very few things can attack it. It's just like Elish Norn. I have another new card I want to talk about. Oh, we're talking about boom booms right now, though. I'll get there.
Do you want the Coldrotha Forge Master?
Yeah, 100%. That card is awesome.
So it's a 5 mana, 3/5 construct that allows you to tap it, sack 3 artifacts, not artifact creatures, just any 3 artifacts, search your library for an artifact card, put it on the battlefield.
Yeah, it's really good.
So it's already a sack thing, which we want anyway, and tutor anything directly to the battlefield. So you got a piece you're missing, you got some crazy value, you need some silver bullet for something, go get your lion sash to exile somebody's graveyard, you know.
It's just really good. And it puts it right on the battlefield, too. So it lets you kind of ramp to taking those junky, like tokens that the commander is going to make. Not junky, but if you have some lesser ones that have less counters on them, just sack them to tutor up stuff. It's really powerful. Coldrotha Forge Master is a card that makes me want to play Lightning Greaves in the deck. So we already have a bunch of mana dorks. I think it plays here. It also protects it really well, which is nice.
I've got some other big ones that like turn into more smaller ones because you got the basically like my 3 versions of Wormcoil Engine that they now have printed, which is like Wormcoil Engine, Triplicate Titan, and Phyrexian Triniform.
Yep, all very, very good. They generate tons of tokens and all kinds of value. I also want to just with Drivnod being in the deck, I think that totally lets us play Teysa Karlov as well.
Yeah.
She was the original like black-white. Whatever, that one's fine. The original black-white token commander.
Yep.
I haven't seen her as much lately. People don't talk about her as much, but it's still a very powerful effect to have your death triggers double. But then she also gives your tokens vigilance and lifelink. And ooh boy, does this guy make some big tokens in this deck. So we'll be able to do some just be able to like give big swaths of life back sometimes because we can't defend ourselves as well. As far as big boom booms that I had talked about, New Shieldred, did you like that one?
Yeah, it does work with our cat. I like that it's a Phyrexian, obviously, right?
Oh, here it is. True Scriptures.
True Scriptures. We haven't seen this one yet in action to know how it works.
No, but I can tell you that all the text on it looks really damn good. It's 4/5 for 5. That's the usual power toughness for this guy now. It's a Phyrexian Praetor, so a Phyrexian, it will trigger your commander. It's got Menace, just because, why not? When it enters the battlefield, each opponent sacks a non-token creature or planeswalker. So I'm already cool with the Fleshbag Marauder rate, and then when you add the cost of Fleshbag, you take away the cost of Fleshbag Marauder, it costs 1 and a black for a 4/5 Menace. That triggered your commander. But also it has pay 4 and a black to exile it and return to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control, and you can only activate it as a sorcery and if an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, which is a lot to jump through. However, the backside of this thing is bonkers. So when it just transforms into the True Scriptures, for each opponent you destroy up to 1 target creature or planeswalker that player controls. So that's already tons of value for flipping it over. You paid the 5 mana, blow up that, and blow up that. Then on the next chapter of the saga, each opponent discards 3 cards, then mills 3 cards.
That's a lot.
That is a lot of cards. To basically make your opponents discard 9 total, and then milling them for 9. Not that milling them is all that relevant for our strategy, but
it is for the next chapter.
Yep. The next chapter says, put all creature cards from all graveyards onto the battlefield under your control. Exile the Scriptures and return it back with the face up. Oh, I don't know if you know this. Because you exiled it and it re-entered, each opponent sacks a non-token creature or planeswalker again.
Yeah.
So this card is busted. I'm surprised it's only $19. I'm thinking about pre-ordering this thing. Because I think it's going to be like a $50 or $60 card when people realize how powerful it is.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so that's...
Do you want the Canoptic Spider for some more card draw?
Yeah, I think that's one of the tough parts of these black-white decks, especially if you're gonna play with artifacts, is that your card velocity is a lot less.
Yeah.
It's a lot slower. You don't get to draw as much.
I mean, we could put.
So whenever another non-token artifact, creature, or vehicle enters battlefield, you control draw card. So it won't draw that many, but it will still draw plenty. So we have a lot of artifact creatures.
Do you want to put my elephant in here?
I mean, low shield, yeah, why not?
I don't know.
How about this?
He's not a Phyrexian and he's not an artifact. If he was either one of those things, I think I'd be a lot higher on him. He's right there if you want to grab him.
I just need to spell his name. Low shield.
He's right on the table.
It's EIL, right?
LOSHEEL.
EEL, alright. It's cheap too. If anything, if we don't like them, we can always just jam in the sideboard there.
Love me my Lucio.
So, yeah, Steve loves this deck. It's a 3-mana, 2/4 legendary elephant artificer, which is funny. Prevent all combat damage to be dealt to attacking artifact creatures you control. So that's not nothing. Whenever one or more artifact creatures enter the battlefield you control, draw a card. It triggers once each turn. So when you cast an artifact creature, it will come in and you'll draw a card. That seems fine.
So
and if you
other
have
options for this would be stuff like Benny Brax.
I think Benny is really good in this deck because it has Convoke, and it says the beginning of each end step, if I remember correctly. And if you have this flashy guy out here, Liberator, you can do more.
So maybe Benny is better and cut Lochiel.
Yeah, probably. I mean, this one has the prevent damage to attacking artifact creatures you control.
But we're not really an attacking deck.
Nah. Move this to considering for sure, though.
Like, when it comes to big things, the Mycosynth Golem is really just getting us this artifact reducer, which could allow us to do some really broken things, including, comboing with some of the stuff that returns back to our hands. Now we're casting it for free. Like, that would do it for us. Your Battle Sphere is giving us a whole bunch of tokens, which plays into our sacking strategy. I don't really think,
Does the affinity for artifacts cost 1 less to play for each artifact you control? I'm pretty sure that allows you to declare Hangerback Walker with whatever X cost you choose, and then use the Mycosynth to reduce that cost.
Yes.
So if you have a pile of artifacts, just like, I'm going to play Hangerback, X is 12. And it costs you nothing. Here you go.
Yeah.
So I think it works like that. Don't quote me.
And then sack it, and then its CMC in the graveyard is 0, so you can get it back with one of the divers and the scrap things, and
Yep. Hangerback does play a really good role in this deck, especially with the just needing a 0 drop. So I'm cool with that. I don't know if we're gonna play it, but I like Soul of New Phyrexia. It's not a card I've played in forever. It's only $1. That's cool. But this is a 6-mana, 6/6 trampling artifact creature. It's an avatar, which I think is funny. But its subtype is Phyrexian, so it's a Phyrexian avatar. So it also says pay 5 permanents you control, gain indestructible on turn. Pay 5 exile from your graveyard. Permanents you control, gain indestructible until the turn. Could be good. I don't mind cutting it at the end, but I think it's still reasonable to pay 6 mana, get a 6/6 trampler, and then make a token with 6/1/1 counters on it. And then if you pay 5 mana, it gives all your permanents indestructible. It can be really good.
Do you,
I would totally play this in an Armageddon deck.
Would you? Right? Do you want to do?
It's cast, Colin, not ETB. Yeah, ETB would be absolutely bananas.
Yes, that would be very good.
That's one of the.
Do you want to play? There's at least 2 good Wraths that we could be playing that I like. I'm always a fan of Wings of Abandon.
Yeah, I like Wraths that don't hurt my stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm not paying 9 mana.
Shout out to Callahan. if anyone's the world's greatest proponent of this card, Callahan from the Mind Sculptors. Winds of Abandon, not Wings.
Something didn't look right.
I think I probably said that. And then the other one is the one that has Improvise. And
this is a less common one to see in Casual Commander. So it's a 1 and a white sorcery to exile a creature you don't control. For each creature exiled this way, its controller searches library for a basic and puts it on the battlefield tapped. But you can pay 6 mana to overload it and exile all creatures you don't control, and they search their libraries for that many basics. So totally great Wrath in this kind of deck.
And then the other one was Inorganic Extinction? Or Organic Extinction, excuse me.
That makes sense. I actually just traded one of these in, and it's worth a lot of money, I found out. Oh, never mind. Went down a lot from what I thought it was.
So this was a Wrath that's 8 and 2 white, but it has Improvise. Destroy all non-artifact creatures. So this is enough. Bye.